The gold band on Alani Booker's finger caught the dim hotel light as Jang Hwa-yeon quietly locked the door behind them. The small click seemed way too loud in the quiet room. Alani set her suitcase down. Her shoulders hurt from all the fake smiling at the courthouse. All she wanted was sleep, in her own room, like they'd agreed. There's been a change of plans. Mr. Jang's voice stayed steady, but his hands shook a little as he took off his jacket. What change? Alani grabbed her suitcase handle again. He moved between her and the door. Not in a scary way, but enough to block her path. His eyes showed something new. Not desire. Fear. You can't leave this bed tonight. He nodded toward the huge bed in the middle of the room. Someone is watching us. Alani's grip tightened on her suitcase. The handle squeaked under her fingers as she remembered the contract from this morning. The one with clear rules about separate rooms, separate lives. The contract that was already falling apart on day one. You're probably wondering how Alani ended up locked in a hotel room with one of Korea's most dangerous men on what should have been a fake wedding night. This story will take you places you never expected, with twists that'll leave you breathless. If you're enjoying the suspense already, do me a quick favor, smash that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now back to the story. 3 weeks earlier, blue and purple neon lights lit up Beale Street. The sound of guitars and laughter filled the Memphis night air. Tourists walked around with drinks, having a good time. Alani wiped the bar counter and tried not to think about the final notice stuffed in her apron pocket. The blues club where she worked was busy enough, but tips weren't cutting it. Bills kept coming. Her grandma's medicine, their apartment rent, her old student loans, they all needed money she didn't have. Alani, table by the window, her manager called over. Be nice. They look like money. She grabbed a tray and headed to a corner where 3 men in fancy suits sat too straight, too quiet for a place like this. They weren't dressed like tourists. Something about them felt different. Like they were holding back something powerful. Welcome to Blue Note, Alani said, raising her voice over the saxophone. What can I get you tonight? 2 of them ordered drinks and food. The third one, a man with sharp features who sat facing the room, just watched her. Have you worked here long? He finally asked, his accent soft but noticeable. A couple years. Why? No reason, he said, glancing at the stage. You just look like you belong here. She smiled and moved on, but his words stuck with her all night. Looking like you belong somewhere doesn't mean you actually do. After her late shift, Alani leaned against the wall behind the club, letting the cool air hit her face. Tomorrow would be the same old problems. Nothing would change. Her phone buzzed. A new email, domestic service opportunity, international placement. Housing included. She almost deleted it thinking it was spam. Then she saw, Memphis recruitment session, Juniper Table House, tomorrow 2 p.m. Juniper Table House was one of those fancy places she always walked past. International work meant leaving her grandma behind. But the email mentioned good pay, visa help, health benefits. She thought about that final notice in her pocket. The next day, she walked into Juniper Table House wearing her only nice shirt and borrowed heels. A woman in a dark suit led her to a small room with a few other nervous-looking applicants. The presentation was quick. Housekeeping job in Seoul. Good pay. Room and food included. 1-year contract. Keep everything private. After it ended, the woman touched her arm. Our client would like to talk to you privately. Your client is in Memphis? He's here on business. The client was the man from the blues club. He sat alone, coffee untouched. He looked even more serious in daylight. Alani, he said. Thanks for coming. You're the client? My name is Jang Hwa-yeon. Most people call me Mr. Jang. I was told this is a housekeeping job, she said carefully. That was just to find the right person. Mr. Jang spoke clearly, each word careful. What I need is something else. He put a folder between them. Inside was a contract, somehow a photo of her, and official-looking papers. This isn't just a job, he continued. It's a 1-year agreement. He paused. In public, you would be my wife. Alani just stared. Your wife. For show only, he added quickly. Separate rooms. Separate lives. In public, married. In private, you have your space. Why would anyone need a fake wife? Something crossed his face, almost like pain. In my position, people expect certain things. A stable family. A proper home. And you can't find a real relationship? I don't have time for real. His words shut that door firmly. What exactly do you do, Mr. Jang? I own companies in Seoul. Real estate. Shipping. Nightclubs. He looked straight at her. Some call it organized crime. Some call it business. They're all right, in their way. She should have walked out right then. But he wasn't bragging about it, just stating facts. You'll be protected, he added. You won't have to break laws. When the year ends, your name stays clean. And you'll be paid enough to clear all your debts, school, medical, whatever you owe. How do you know about my debts? She asked quietly. He didn't answer. So I pretend for a year, she said. Smile for pictures, go to dinners, live in your house. Yes. And there are no other expectations? Her face felt warm. I'm not asking for that. I cannot, he stopped. I will not cross that line. The way he changed from cannot to will not made her wonder. And if I say no? Then you walk out that door, he said, nodding to the exit, and I wish you well. She looked at the contract. The numbers were huge, enough to pay grandma's medical bills. Enough to finish school. Enough to start over. You have a choice, he told her, pushing the contract closer. But I should warn you, once you sign, there's no walking away. Alani left Juniper Table House with the heavy folder tucked under her arm. The fancy restaurant's air conditioning stuck to her skin as she stepped into Memphis heat. She'd asked for 24 hours to think about Mr. Jang's offer. He'd given her 12. Call this number with your answer by midnight, he'd said, writing a number on a card. No email. No text. A voice call only. Now, walking back to the bus stop in her borrowed heels, Alani felt like she was carrying a bomb instead of a folder. One decision could blow her whole life apart, or maybe save it. Her phone rang. The screen showed Memorial Hospital billing. She let it go to voicemail. They'd leave the same message they always did: payment overdue, account in collections, possible legal action. The bus was late, and by the time Alani reached her apartment building, her feet hurt and her mind was spinning. The folder felt heavier with each step up the 3 flights of stairs. Their apartment was small, a 1-bedroom where Alani slept on the pull-out couch so her grandmother could have the bedroom. The place smelled like the soup she'd left simmering this morning and the lavender air freshener that never quite covered the building's old pipe smell. That you, baby? Her grandmother called from the bedroom. It's me, Nana, Alani answered, dropping her bag and the folder on the kitchen counter. She checked the soup, stirred it once, then went to her grandmother's room. Loretta Booker sat propped up in bed, surrounded by pillows, a book open in her lap. At 73, her face mapped a life of hard work and harder smiles. The oxygen tank beside her bed hummed quietly. How was the job interview? She asked. Alani leaned against the doorframe. It wasn't exactly what I expected. Good or bad different? I'm still figuring that out. Her grandmother patted the bed beside her. Tell me. Alani sat, trying to find simple words for a complicated situation. It's good money. Really good money. But it's in Korea. Her grandmother's eyebrows shot up. Lord, that's far. And Alani hesitated. How could she explain a fake marriage to a woman who'd been married for 42 years before her husband passed? It's complicated. Life usually is. Her grandmother reached for her hand. Is it safe? I think so. Alani wasn't completely sure, but she needed to believe it. What about my treatments? Your student loans? And there it was. The elephant that had been sitting on Alani's chest since her grandmother's diagnosis 3 years ago. The medical bills that had swallowed her savings. The loans that had frozen when she dropped out to care for Nana. The rent that kept climbing while their income didn't. That's the thing, Nana. The money would cover everything. Everything? Her grandmother's voice was skeptical. Everything. Alani squeezed her hand. Your treatments. The loans. Enough to get you into Sunrise Gardens. Sunrise Gardens was the assisted living facility they'd toured last year, before realizing it cost more per month than they made combined. I don't need fancy gardens, her grandmother said, but her eyes told a different story. She was tired of struggling to breathe. Tired of worrying about Alani giving up her life to care for her. You deserve some peace, Alani said. And I need to know you're taken care of if I go. If? Alani sighed. When? After dinner, Alani spread the contract across their small kitchen table. The folder contained not just the agreement but a benefit summary that made her head spin. Monthly salary, $12,000, transferred to a U.S. bank account. Housing and meals provided, private suite within employer's residence. Health insurance, international plan with U.S. coverage for dependents. Travel allowance for 2 home visits per year. Completion bonus, $150,000, payable upon fulfillment of 12-month term. There was also a separate document labeled Family Care Provision that outlined payments for her grandmother's medical care and housing at Sunrise Gardens, starting immediately upon contract signing. It couldn't be real. Nothing paid this much for a year of pretending. Alani pulled out her laptop and typed Han Group Seoul into the search bar. The results showed a sleek corporate website featuring shipping containers, high-rise buildings, and nightclubs with blue lighting. The About page showed Mr. Jang in an expensive suit, looking exactly as serious as he had in person. But there were other results too. News articles with headlines like Han Group Expansion Raises Questions About Business Practices, and Police Investigation into Nightclub District Stalls Again. One financial blog called the Han Group Seoul's most sophisticated operation, blending legitimate business with old-school protection rackets. Another site had a line that made Alani's stomach tighten. Jang Hwa-yeon, son of infamous Han Soo-jin, maintains a lower profile than his father but an equally iron grip on Seoul's shipping corridors. She kept digging until she found an article from 3 years ago, buried on the 3rd page of results. Han Air survives targeted attack. The article was brief, mentioning only that Jang Hwa-yeon had been hospitalized following an incident believed to be connected to business rivalries. No details about the attack or his injuries. The ceiling creaked overhead, the upstairs neighbor pacing again. Outside, someone's car alarm went off briefly, then fell silent. Alani closed her laptop and looked at her phone. It was 11:42 p.m. She had 18 minutes to decide. The eviction notice was still on the fridge, held by a magnet shaped like Tennessee. Final notice. The hospital bill was on the counter, the amount due circled in red. Her student loan deferment was ending next month. And then there was Nana's oxygen, which insurance only partly covered. The medications. The special diet. The fact that Alani couldn't work enough hours because someone needed to be home, just in case. She picked up her phone and the card with Mr. Jang's number. He answered on the first ring, as if he'd been holding the phone. It's Alani, she said. Yes. Just that one word, neutral, waiting. I have questions. Ask. The Han Group, it's not just regular business, is it? A pause. Would you like me to lie to you, Alani? No. Then no, it is not just regular business. But the contract you would sign is for legal appearances only. You are not being asked to participate in anything illegal. And the money is real? Very real. Why me? She asked. You could hire anyone. Another pause. You have a certain quality. Dignity under pressure. I observed it at the club. You do not complain about difficult situations. You handle them. It was both flattering and unsettling that he'd noticed so much from their brief interaction. There's something else, she said. Something you're not telling me about why you need this arrangement. His voice changed slightly. Yes. Is it something that would put me in danger? Not directly, he said. It is personal. A private matter. But it's the real reason, isn't it? One of them. His tone made it clear he wouldn't elaborate further. Alani looked at the clock, 11:51. If I say yes, she said, the payments for my grandmother start right away? The first transfer will be made within 1 hour of your signature. Alani closed her eyes. Then I'm saying yes. There was a soft exhale on the other end of the line. Relief? Resignation? She couldn't tell. A car will pick you up tomorrow at 9 a.m., he said. Bring the signed contract. That's it? For now. The call ended, and Alani sat at the kitchen table, staring at the contract signature page. Her hand shook slightly as she signed her name on the line. She had just agreed to be the fake wife of a man she barely knew, in a country she'd never visited, for more money than she'd ever seen. Relief and dread swirled together in her stomach. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Alani called Sunrise Gardens, leaving a message about her grandmother's upcoming residency. She called her boss at the blues club and quit. She pulled her old suitcase from the closet and tried to decide what a fake wife would need to pack. Morning came too quickly. Alani had barely slept, but she moved on autopilot, making her grandmother's breakfast and organizing her medications into daily pill containers. I don't like that you're doing this for me, her grandmother said, watching her pack. I'm doing it for both of us, Alani replied, folding a sweater that would probably be too warm for Seoul. You don't even know this man. I know enough. Alani wasn't sure if that was true. And it's just for a year. Then I'll come back, finish school, and we'll be free of all this debt. Her grandmother didn't look convinced. Promise me you'll be careful. And call me. And come back if anything feels wrong. I promise. Alani hugged her, breathing in the familiar scent of cocoa butter lotion and cough drops. 2 hours later, a nurse from Sunrise Gardens arrived to help with the transition. The facility had somehow found an immediate opening after receiving confirmation of payment. Alani packed her grandmother's favorite photos, her Bible, and the quilt Alani's grandfather had bought her for their 40th anniversary. This place has nurses around the clock, Alani reminded her, trying to make it sound exciting instead of terrifying for them both. And a garden with real benches by a pond. I know, baby. Her grandmother patted her cheek. I'll be fine. It's you I'm worried about. The nurse was patient, helping load Nana's things into the Sunrise van. Alani followed in a taxi to help her grandmother get settled. The facility was everything the brochure had promised, clean, bright, with staff who smiled without looking rushed. Saying goodbye was harder than Alani had expected. She hugged her grandmother one last time outside her new room. I love you, she whispered. Love you more, her grandmother replied, their usual exchange. Be smart over there. And remember who you are. Back at their apartment, now just her apartment for a few more hours, Alani finished packing. She didn't own much that seemed appropriate for the life of a wealthy businessman's wife, fake or otherwise. She packed her best jeans, her few decent tops, the dress she'd worn to job interviews. The place felt emptier without her grandmother's presence, without the oxygen machine's constant hum. Alani walked through each room, saying a silent goodbye to the life she'd known. As she zipped her suitcase closed, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Car arriving in 10 minutes. Bring ID for marriage license. Marriage license. The words made it suddenly, startlingly real. She was going to marry a man she'd met twice. A man with a secret, condition, and business dealings she didn't fully understand. A man who had somehow changed her life with a single contract. Alani took one last look around the apartment, then picked up her suitcase and the folder with the signed contract. Whatever happened next, there was no turning back. She closed the door behind her without locking it. The landlord would clear out whatever she'd left behind once the rent stopped coming. By then, she'd be on the other side of the world, wearing a stranger's ring. The car waiting downstairs was black with tinted windows. The driver wore a suit and didn't smile as he took her suitcase and held the door open. Alani slid into the back seat, the leather cool against her legs. As the car pulled away from the curb, she allowed herself one glance back at the building she'd called home. Then she faced forward, toward whatever waited across the ocean with Mr. Jang. The courthouse sat between a coffee shop and a parking garage, nothing special about it. Just brick and concrete and wide steps leading to glass doors. Alani sat in the back of the car, watching people come and go, regular people doing regular things like fighting traffic tickets or filing paperwork. Not getting fake married to Korean businessmen they barely knew. We're here, the driver said, his first words since picking her up. Mr. Jang was already waiting inside. He wore a dark gray suit that probably cost more than Alani's old car, his posture perfect as he spoke quietly with another man in a similar suit. When he saw her, he didn't smile exactly, but his expression softened slightly. You came, he said, as if he'd half expected her to change her mind. I signed the contract, she reminded him. He nodded once. This is Min-ho. He handles legal matters. Min-ho gave her a slight bow. Ms. Booker. The judge is ready for us. It all felt so normal. No one looked at them strangely. No one questioned why a young black woman from Memphis was marrying a Korean businessman she'd met 2 days ago. Min-ho had papers ready, answers prepared. Everything moved with the efficiency of a well-oiled machine. The courtroom was small, with wooden benches and fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. A middle-aged judge shuffled papers at her desk, barely glancing up as they entered. Jang and Booker, she asked. Yes, Your Honor, Min-ho answered. 2 more men in suits, Mr. Jang's employees, apparently, stood as witnesses. No one from Alani's side. No family, no friends. Just strangers in a room watching her sign her name over and over. Do you have rings? The judge asked, sounding bored. Min-ho handed over a small velvet box. Wait. Rings? Alani hadn't thought about rings. Mr. Jang opened the box. Inside sat 2 simple gold bands. Nothing flashy, nothing with diamonds. Just plain gold circles that would tell the world they belonged to each other. The judge rushed through the ceremony like she was reading a grocery list. Do you, Jang Hwa-yeon, take this woman? I do, he said, voice clear and certain. Do you, Alani Booker, take this man? Alani's mouth felt dry. I do. Exchange rings. Mr. Jang's fingers were cool as they brushed against hers. The ring slid onto her finger, a perfect fit. How did he know her size? She took his ring from the box, noticing a slight tremble in his hand as she slipped it onto his finger. For a flash, she wondered if he'd done this before, hired fake wives when needed. The thought disappeared as the judge spoke again. By the power vested in me by the state of Tennessee, I pronounce you husband and wife. No, you may kiss the bride. Thank goodness. Just like that, Alani was married. Mrs. Jang. The name felt foreign in her head. They signed the marriage certificate, the witnesses signed, and the judge stamped it with the same enthusiasm she might stamp a parking validation. Congratulations, she said without looking up. Next case. Outside the courtroom, Minho handed Alani a folder containing copies of everything they just signed. Your passport has been expedited, he explained. It will arrive this afternoon with your visa. The flight to Seoul leaves tonight at 11 p.m. Tonight? That was fast. Mr. Jang checked his watch. We have a suite at the Riverfront Hotel. You can rest there before the flight. His business tone made it clear this was just another transaction for him. Hire maid. Sign papers. Get married. Fly to Korea. Check, check, check. The drive to the hotel was quiet. Alani sat beside Mr. Jang in the back seat while Minho took the front. Outside, Memphis went about its day, unaware that she'd just tied herself to a stranger for the next year. The gold band felt heavy on her finger. She kept touching it, turning it, not used to its weight. Is it uncomfortable? Mr. Jang asked, noticing her fidgeting. Just new, she replied. You can take it off when we're alone, he said. It's only for appearances. Somehow, that made it worse. Even this small symbol was fake. What should I call you? She asked. Now that we're, Mr. Jang is fine. I can't call my husband Mr., she pointed out. People would notice. He considered this. In public, you may call me Yeon. In private, whatever makes you comfortable. And what will you call me? Alani, he said simply. The hotel overlooked the Mississippi River, its glass front reflecting the afternoon sun. Men in suits held doors open as they approached. Not hotel staff, Mr. Jang's people, Alani realized. They were everywhere, watching, alert. One walked ahead of them to the elevator, another behind. In the lobby, she spotted 3 more, positioned near exits. They all wore identical earpieces. Is all this security normal? She whispered as they entered the elevator. Yes, Mr. Jang answered. No explanation, just fact. The elevator needed a key card for the top floor. The doors opened directly into a massive suite that made Alani freeze in the entrance. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the river and skyline. The living room alone was bigger than her entire apartment. White couches, glass tables, fresh flowers in tall vases. A dining area with 8 chairs. Multiple doors leading to what she assumed were bedrooms. Your room is on the right, Mr. Jang said, as casually as if they were roommates. Mine is on the left. The staff has placed your things inside. Alani walked slowly to the door he'd indicated. The bedroom was a dream, king-sized bed with more pillows than she could count, another wall of windows, a bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. On the bed lay a small suitcase she didn't recognize. What's this? She called out. Mr. Jang appeared in the doorway. Some suitable clothes for our arrival in Seoul. There will be photographers at the airport. Photographers? I am somewhat known in business circles, he said, understating what she'd gathered from her research. My marriage will be noteworthy. Alani unzipped the suitcase. Inside were clothes with tags still attached, designer brands she'd only seen in magazines. A simple black dress. Tailored slacks. Blouses in neutral colors. Shoes that looked Italian and expensive. How did you know my size? She asked. A flicker of something crossed his face. The agency took measurements during your interview. That explained the perfect fit of the wedding ring too. They'd been planning this while she thought she was applying for a housekeeping job. You can rest, Mr. Jang said. We leave for the airport at 9 p.m. He closed her door, leaving Alani alone in luxury that felt more like a cage than freedom. She showered in the massive bathroom, using fancy soap that smelled like lemons. The hot water helped clear her head, but questions kept swirling. What would Seoul be like? What would Mr. Jang's home be like? What would she actually be doing all day as a fake wife? And most importantly, what was the personal matter that made all this necessary? When she emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a plush robe, her phone had a text from her grandmother, made it to sunrise. Room is nice. Nurse Jackie is a character. Call when you can. Attached was a photo of her grandmother sitting in a sunny room, looking both nervous and pleased. At least that part of the arrangement was working out. Alani called and spoke with her for a few minutes, keeping her voice light, skipping over the details of her quick wedding. She'd tell her grandmother the full truth eventually, but not now, not over the phone with Mr. Zhang potentially listening. I'm flying out tonight, she told her. I'll call when I land. Be safe, baby, her grandmother said. And remember what I said, you come home if anything feels wrong. After the call, Alani tried on one of the new outfits, black pants and a cream-colored blouse that fit perfectly. The fabric felt rich against her skin. She examined herself in the full-length mirror, trying to see what others would see, the wife of a wealthy man, elegant, poised. All she saw was Alani Booker playing dress-up. A knock on her door startled her. Yes? Dinner has been delivered, Mr. Zhang's voice came through the door. If you'd like to eat. Alani hadn't realized how hungry she was. She opened the door to find Mr. Zhang standing there, jacket off, tie loosened. He looked more human this way, less like a statue. The dining table was set with silver covers over plates and a bottle of what looked like expensive wine. I wasn't sure what you liked, he said. So I ordered several options. Under the covers were steak, fish, pasta, and various side dishes, enough to feed 6 people, not 2. They sat across from each other at the large table. Mr. Zhang poured water for them both, ignoring the wine. You don't drink? Alani asked, trying to break the silence. Not often, he replied. Medication. That was new information. What kind of medication? His chopsticks paused halfway to his mouth. For pain. From an old injury. The incident from 3 years ago? His eyes narrowed slightly. You've been researching me. Wouldn't you, in my position? He set his chopsticks down. Yes. That was prudent of you. So what happened? The article didn't say much. It was a car accident. Deliberate. His voice was flat, clinical. Orchestrated by business rivals. You were hurt badly? Yes. His tone closed the subject. They ate in silence for a while. Alani tried the steak, which was perfectly cooked. The whole situation felt surreal, eating fine dining with her new husband in a luxury hotel, wearing clothes that cost more than her rent. What will I actually be doing in Seoul? She finally asked. Besides being seen with you occasionally. Living your life, he said. You'll have access to the house, staff, cars. You can explore the city, study, whatever you wish. Just be available when needed for public appearances. It sounded both liberating and empty. A year of luxury with no purpose except occasional performances. And your family? She asked. Will I meet them? A muscle twitched in his jaw. Some of them. My uncle oversees part of the business. My mother lives outside the city. My father is not in the picture. She wanted to ask more, but his phone rang. He checked the screen, then answered in Korean, his voice instantly changing, harder, more clipped. Alani couldn't understand the words, but she could read his body language. Whatever the caller was saying, it wasn't good news. Mr. Zhang's shoulders tensed. His free hand curled into a fist on the table. His responses became shorter, sharper. When he hung up, he sat perfectly still for a moment, staring at nothing. Is everything okay? Alani asked. He seemed to come back from somewhere far away. There's been a change of plans. That phrase again. It was starting to worry her. What kind of change? Mr. Zhang stood and began pacing, something she hadn't seen him do before. His careful control was slipping. My uncle was supposed to meet us next week in Seoul, he said. He's decided to come to Memphis instead. He'll be here tomorrow morning. Okay, Alani said slowly. So we'll meet him before we fly out? It's not that simple. Mr. Jang stopped pacing, his face paler than before. He doesn't visit without reason. He's coming to verify. Verify what? Us. This. He gestured between them. My marriage. A cold feeling spread through Alani's stomach. I thought this was just for appearances in Seoul. For business stability or whatever. It is. But my uncle, he has questions. Mr. Jang ran a hand through his hair, messing up its perfect arrangement. He thinks I'm hiding something. Aren't you? His eyes met hers. Yes. But not what he suspects. Alani stood too, suddenly needing to move. What does he suspect? Mr. Jang looked away. Many things. That this marriage is not real. That I'm not capable of. He trailed off, but Alani could fill in the blank. This had something to do with his condition, the one he wouldn't explain. So what do we do? She asked. We convince him. Mr. Jang's voice hardened again. We must be perfect. Convincing. He will be watching everything, how we speak, how we move around each other. Everything. I didn't sign up for this, Alani said. I'm not an actress. No, Mr. Jang agreed. But you are now my wife. At least on paper. He moved to the window, looking out at the darkening sky. And by this time tomorrow, we need to make my uncle believe it's more than paper. Or what happens? He turned back to her, shadows cutting across his face. My uncle arrives tomorrow, he says, face pale. He wants to meet my new bride. And he doesn't believe you exist. You can't leave this bed tonight. Someone is watching. Mr. Jang's words hung in the air between them. Alani's grip tightened on her suitcase handle, her mind racing through every bad movie scenario about forced marriage and trafficking. But the fear in his eyes didn't match those scenarios. He looked, hunted. What do you mean someone's watching? Alani kept her voice low, matching his volume. Who? Mr. Jang moved to the window, carefully staying to the side of the curtains. My uncle's men. Maybe others. I thought your uncle wasn't arriving until tomorrow. His men are always ahead of him. Mr. Jang peered through a small gap in the fabric. This hotel has been secure for years, but after that phone call. He shook his head. He doesn't just want to meet you. He wants to catch us. Catch us doing what? We're not doing anything wrong. Mr. Jang turned back to face her. We're lying. This marriage. He gestured between them. If he proves it's fake, it creates problems for both of us. Alani set her suitcase down, trying to think clearly. Okay, so he's suspicious. But watching our hotel room? That's crazy. In my world, it's Tuesday. Mr. Jang's attempt at humor fell flat. My uncle doesn't trust easily. When my father died, there were struggles for control. My uncle thinks I'm not strong enough to lead the family business. And a wife proves you're strong? A wife proves stability. Continuation of the family line. His voice tightened on the last part. Without that, I'm vulnerable. So what exactly are you saying we need to do tonight? Alani crossed her arms defensively. Share the bed. Sleep. Nothing more. He looked almost embarrassed. But if anyone is watching through cameras, or if someone reports back to my uncle, they need to see a normal married couple. Alani glanced at the king-sized bed dominating the room. It was huge, plenty of space for two people to sleep without touching. Still. Can't we just... I don't know, mess up both sides of the bed and I'll sleep on the couch. The suite may be bugged too, he said quietly. Sound, not just video. Alani rubbed her forehead, feeling a headache coming on. This is way more than I signed up for. I know. For the first time, Mr. Zhang's businessman facade cracked slightly. He looked tired. And I'm sorry. But tonight is important. If we convince them now, it buys us time. Alani considered her options. She could refuse, break the contract, go home. Back to unpaid bills, her grandmother's move interrupted, debt collectors calling. Or she could spend one awkward night sharing a bed with a stranger and wake up with the contract, and the money, still intact. Fine, she said finally. But we're setting some ground rules. Relief softened his features. Of course. I sleep in my clothes. You sleep in yours. We stay on opposite sides. And this is a one-time thing. Agreed. He nodded formally, as if they'd just negotiated a business deal. And maybe they had. Alani grabbed her small overnight bag. I'm going to change in the bathroom. The bathroom was bigger than her old bedroom, all marble and glass. Alani splashed water on her face, staring at her reflection. How had her life turned so completely upside down in 3 days? She changed into the closest thing to pajamas she had, yoga pants and a loose t-shirt, and brushed her teeth, taking her time. When she finally emerged, Mr. Zhang had dimmed the lights and was sitting on one side of the bed, still fully dressed except for his shoes and jacket. I'll take this side, he said, indicating the half nearest the window. Fine. Alani approached cautiously, setting her phone on the nightstand. They moved awkwardly around each other, like dancers who'd never practiced together. She pulled back the covers on her side while he arranged pillows between them, a soft barrier marking their territories. Ready? He asked, hand on the lamp switch. Alani nodded, sliding under the covers. The sheets were cool and expensive, nothing like her worn cotton ones at home. The mattress dipped slightly as Mr. Zhang got in on his side, keeping the pillow wall intact between them. The light clicked off, plunging the room into darkness broken only by the faint glow of the city through the curtains. Good night, he said formally. Night, she replied, turning on her side to face away from him. Alani lay awake, hyper-aware of the stranger breathing a few feet away. The whole situation felt surreal, married this morning, sharing a bed tonight, flying to Korea tomorrow. Her life had become a bizarre movie, and she wasn't sure if it was a thriller or a tragedy. Mr. Zhang's breathing never deepened into sleep. She could tell he was awake too, both of them pretending to rest while their minds raced. The minutes crawled by, marked by the digital clock on the nightstand. 11:42, 12:15. 12:53. Somewhere after 1 a.m., exhaustion finally pulled Alani under. She woke to movement. The bed was shaking slightly. At first, still half asleep, she thought it might be an earthquake. Then she heard the sound, a small, choked noise that wasn't quite a word. Alani turned over. In the dim light filtering through the curtains, she could make out Mr. Zhang's form. He was still asleep, but his body was rigid, his hands clenched in the sheets. Sweat gleamed on his forehead. His head moved side to side in tiny, jerky motions, like he was trying to say, no, without speaking. Another sound escaped him, part whimper, part gasp. Mr. Zhang? Alani whispered. He didn't wake. His breathing grew faster, more ragged. Words tumbled from his lips, Korean phrases she couldn't understand, but their desperate tone needed no translation. He was trapped in something terrible. Mr. Zhang, she said again, louder. Wake up. His body jerked violently, nearly knocking over the pillow barrier. His hands clawed at his chest as if fighting invisible restraints. Alani reached out, then hesitated. Should she touch him? Would it make things worse? Before she could decide, Mr. Zhang's eyes flew open. For a moment, they were wild, unseeing. Then awareness flooded back, along with something that looked like shame. He sat up quickly, breathing hard. I apologize, he said, voice rough. I didn't mean to wake you. It's okay, Alani said. Are you all right? Yes. The word was automatic, unconvincing. Alani watched as he swung his legs over the side of the bed, sitting with his back to her. His shoulders rose and fell with each deliberate breath. He was trying to regain control. "Does that happen a lot?" she asked. A long pause. "Yes." "Since the accident?" Another pause. "Yes." Mr. Jang stood, moving to the window. He pulled the curtain back just enough to look out at the night city. His silhouette was tense, a man carrying invisible weight. "Do you want to talk about it?" Alani surprised herself by asking. This wasn't her problem. They weren't really married. His nightmares weren't her concern. "No," he said. Then, softer, "But thank you." The clock on the nightstand showed 3:14 a.m. Mr. Jang stayed by the window, apparently not ready to return to sleep and its waiting nightmares. Alani sat up, leaning against the headboard. "My grandmother has nightmares sometimes," she said, not sure why she was sharing this. "About when my grandfather died. She says talking about it helps." "Perhaps your grandmother is wiser than I am," Mr. Jang replied quietly. Silence settled between them. Alani thought he'd close the conversation, but then he spoke again, his voice so low she had to strain to hear. "It wasn't just a car accident," he said. "It was 3 days. 3 days? They held me for 3 days before staging the accident." His fingers made air quotes around the word. The crash was to cover what happened before. Alani's stomach tightened. "They kidnapped you?" "A business disagreement." His tone was flat, as if discussing weather. "My father had recently died. Leadership was contested." "Your uncle?" Mr. Jang's shoulders stiffened. "No. Not directly. A rival family. But my uncle didn't stop it, didn't pay what they asked." 3 days became very long. Alani couldn't imagine what very long meant in this context. "Didn't want to." "I'm sorry," she said, the words feeling inadequate. Mr. Jang turned from the window, his face in shadow. "The doctor said some damage was permanent. Physical. Neurological." He paused. "When I returned, rumors started. Questions about whether I could still lead. Whether I could continue the family line. And there it was, the unspoken thing at the center of their arrangement. That's why you need a wife," Alani said slowly. "To stop the rumors." "A wife buys time," he agreed. "Expectations for children won't come immediately." "And after a year? When our contract ends? A tragic divorce. Or an accident." His voice was cool, practical. "Either way, I will have secured my position by then through other means." Alani hugged her knees to her chest, processing. This man had been kidnapped, tortured, and left with permanent damage. Now he was fighting to hold on to control of a family business that operated partly outside the law. And she was caught in the middle. "You should have told me this before I signed," she said. "Would you have signed if I had?" The honest answer was no, and they both knew it. "Get some sleep," Mr. Jang said, moving away from the window. "Tomorrow will be difficult with my uncle." "What about you?" "I rarely sleep after." He gestured vaguely to the bed, to the nightmare still lingering there. "Try," Alani said. "I'm a light sleeper. If it happens again, I'll wake you." Something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe gratitude. He nodded once and returned to his side of the bed, carefully rebuilding the pillow barrier that had been disturbed. They lay back down, further apart than before, both staring at the ceiling. "Thank you," Mr. Jang said after a while, so quietly she almost missed it. Alani didn't answer, pretending to be already asleep. She wasn't ready to acknowledge the strange intimacy of what had just happened, not the physical closeness, but the revelation. She'd glimpsed the broken pieces beneath Mr. Jang's perfect surface. She lay awake long after his breathing finally deepened into sleep, turning over everything she'd learned. His enemies hadn't just tried to kill him, they'd taken something from him, something central to how men in his world measured power. And now they were watching, waiting for any sign of weakness to finish what they'd started. Which meant Alani wasn't just a fake wife. She was a shield. A human smokescreen. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it awakened something unexpected, a protective instinct, a flash of anger at people who would use such a private injury as a weapon. Dawn was breaking by the time her eyes grew heavy again. Golden light began seeping around the edges of the curtains. In the half-light, Mr. Jang's sleeping face looked younger, the careful mask set aside. Just before Alani drifted off, a bright flash illuminated their window from outside, quick, artificial, gone in an instant. A phone camera. They were being watched, just as Mr. Jang had said. The game had already begun. Alani woke to the sound of running water. Sunlight streamed through a gap in the curtains, painting a bright line across the empty side of the bed where Mr. Jang had been. The bathroom door opened, and Mr. Jang emerged, already dressed in a fresh suit, his hair damp. He paused when he saw she was awake. "Good morning," he said formally. "My uncle will be here in 90 minutes. There's a dress in your closet for breakfast." Alani sat up, rubbing sleep from her eyes. What happened with the camera flash last night? A muscle tightened in his jaw. One of my uncle's men. I've had the hotel security footage checked. So they were watching us. Yes. He straightened his already perfect tie. And they'll be watching today too. Every word. Every movement. Great. Nothing like pressure first thing in the morning. The dress hanging in her closet was simple but elegant, navy blue, knee-length, with three-quarter sleeves. Beside it hung a small pearl necklace. The outfit screamed respectable new wife, exactly the image they needed to project. As Alani showered and dressed, she tried to prepare herself mentally. She needed to seem like a woman in love, not a woman in a business arrangement. She needed to know things about Mr. Jang that a real wife would know. "We need a crash course in each other," she announced, walking out of the bedroom. "Basic stuff real couples would know." Mr. Jang looked up from his phone. "Like what?" "How we met. Your favorite food. Whether you snore." She sat across from him at the small table where coffee was waiting. "Your uncle's going to ask." He nodded slowly. "You're right. Let's keep it simple. We met at your blues club 3 months ago while I was in Memphis on business. 3 months is pretty fast to get married. Rich men make impulsive decisions about beautiful women," he said matter-of-factly. "It's believable." Alani felt her cheeks warm at the casual way he called her beautiful. "Okay. What else?" "I don't snore. I prefer Korean food but enjoy American steaks. I read history books for relaxation. I work too much." He listed facts about himself like items on a menu. "Your turn." "I worked at the blues club to help pay for school. I was studying business administration before I had to drop out to care for my grandmother. I like early mornings and thunderstorms. I make really good pancakes." Mr. Jang nodded, committing her details to memory. "What about terms of endearment?" "What do you mean?" "A husband and wife would have names for each other." Alani hadn't thought of that. "I guess I could call you honey sometimes." "Nothing too mushy." "That would work." He seemed uncomfortable with even this small intimacy. A knock at the door ended their preparation time. Mr. Jang's expression instantly shifted, becoming more guarded. "Ready?" he asked. No, she wasn't ready. But she nodded anyway. The man who entered their suite moved like a tiger, smooth, unhurried, but ready to strike. In his 60s with silver-streaked hair and expensive clothes, Kim Sung-ho carried authority like other men carried wallets, something so natural he no longer noticed its weight. His eyes found Alani immediately, assessing her from head to toe. Mr. Jang stepped forward. "Uncle, this is my wife, Alani." "Alani, my uncle, Kim Sung-ho." The older man smiled, but the expression didn't reach his eyes. So you really do exist. My nephew has been quite mysterious about you. It's nice to meet you, sir, Alani said, offering her hand. Instead of shaking it, he clasped it between both of his, a gesture that seemed friendly but felt like being trapped. Please, call me Uncle Sung-ho. We are family now. His English was perfect, with barely any accent. That somehow made him more intimidating. Shall we have breakfast? Mr. Jang suggested, a slight edge to his voice. Hotel staff wheeled in a cart loaded with covered dishes. The smell of fresh bread and coffee filled the suite as they took seats around the dining table. Two of Uncle Sung-ho's men positioned themselves near the door, silent, watchful. So, Alani, the uncle began as servers poured coffee, tell me how you met my nephew. He's been unusually silent about the details. Alani felt Mr. Jang tense beside her. This was their first test. I was working at the Blue Note on Beale Street, she said, smiling as if at a pleasant memory. He came in with some business associates. Most customers barely noticed the staff, but Hua Yan actually looked at me when he ordered. Asked how long I'd worked there. Uncle Sung-ho raised an eyebrow. And that impressed you? Being seen impresses everyone, Alani replied honestly. We talked a little that night. He came back the next evening alone. This was all fabrication, but it felt real as she said it. Mr. Jang was looking at her with something like surprise. And now, 3 months later, you're married, the uncle observed. Rather quick, don't you think? Alani took a sip of coffee. When you know, you know. The uncle's laugh was sharp, like breaking glass. How pragmatic Americans are about love. He turned to Mr. Jang. Your father took 3 years to decide on your mother. Times change, uncle, Mr. Jang replied. Indeed they do. Sung-ho cut into his eggs with surgical precision. And what do you know about our family business, Alani? The question hung in the air like smoke. I know it's complicated, she said carefully. Multiple companies. Some public, some private. And the private ones don't concern you? They concern me because they concern my husband, Alani said, meeting his gaze. But I trust his judgment. Uncle Sung-ho studied her over the rim of his coffee cup. Trust. Such a rare commodity. He set the cup down with a soft clink. And children? Will those come quickly too? Mr. Jang's hand tightened on his fork. We're enjoying being newlyweds first, Alani said smoothly. Some things shouldn't be rushed. The uncle smiled thinly. Wise. Though at your husband's age, heir considerations become pressing. His position demands continuity. The threat was barely veiled. No heir, no leadership. We understand family obligations, Alani said, placing her hand over Mr. Jang's in a gesture that felt both foreign and necessary. Breakfast continued with the uncle asking seemingly casual questions that probed for weaknesses in their story. Where would they live in Seoul? Had Alani met any other family members? Was she planning to learn Korean? Through it all, Mr. Jang remained tense beside her, answering when needed but letting Alani take the lead. If you've made it this far, you're probably wondering if Alani will survive this family dinner. This is just the beginning of how complicated things get. If you're feeling the tension building, take a second to hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Drop a comment about what you think the uncle is really planning. Now, let's get back to Alani's impossible situation. After breakfast, Uncle Sung-ho made an unexpected suggestion. I'd like to see this famous Beale Street before I return to Seoul, he announced. Perhaps you could show me where you met? Alani's stomach dropped. The Blue Note. Where everyone knew her as a server, not as the wife of a wealthy businessman. Mr. Jang started to object. Uncle, we have flight preparations. Nonsense. A quick visit. I insist. The words were pleasant, the tone was not. 30 minutes later, their small convoy of black SUVs pulled up at the edge of Beale Street. Even in daylight, the area had character, neon signs unlit but still colorful, music spilling from open doors, tourists mingling with locals. Alani felt dizzy walking into the Blue Note as a customer, Mr. Jang's hand at the small of her back, Uncle Sung-ho following with his men. The lunch crowd was thin, but several staff members were setting up, including Marcus, her former manager. His eyes widened when he saw her. "Alani? Didn't expect to see you back so soon." Before she could respond, Uncle Sung-ho stepped forward. "You know my nephew's wife?" Marcus looked between them, confusion clear on his face. "Wife? Alani, you got married?" The moment teetered on a knife's edge. Mr. Jang's hand pressed slightly harder against her back. "It was sudden," Alani said, smiling. "Remember that night I served Mr. Jang and his colleagues? Well." She leaned into Mr. Jang slightly, playing the smitten newlywed. "Sometimes life surprises you." Marcus still looked bewildered, but nodded. Congratulations. Can I get you folks a table?" They were seated at the same corner table where Alani had first served Mr. Jang and his associates. The irony wasn't lost on her. Uncle Sung-ho ordered whiskey despite the early hour. Mr. Jang asked for water. Alani could feel her former co-workers glancing their way, whispering. "So this is where it began," Uncle Sung-ho said, looking around dismissively. "Quite atmospheric." "The music is better at night," Alani said. "I'm sure." The uncle swirled his whiskey. "Tell me, Alani, what was it about my nephew that captured your heart? Besides the obvious financial advantages." Mr. Jang stiffened beside her. "Uncle. No, I want to hear from your wife." Uncle Sung-ho's smile was sharp. "What did you love first about Hwaiyan?" "It was a trap." Say something too personal, and it would sound fabricated. Say something too obvious, and it would sound mercenary. Alani thought about the man beside her. The careful way he hung up his jacket. The nightmares that shook his body. The vulnerability he'd shown at 3 a.m. "His control," she said finally. "The way he holds himself like he's carrying something heavy, but never complains." She looked directly at Mr. Jang, not the uncle. "The way he seems cold until you realize he's just careful. With himself. With others." Mr. Jang's eyes widened slightly. For a moment, the mask slipped, showing genuine surprise. Uncle Sung-ho's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Interesting observation for a new wife. "I pay attention," Alani replied. "And what else have you noticed about my nephew?" Another test. Alani thought about what a real wife would know. "He takes his coffee black but adds sugar when he thinks no one's looking," she improvised. "He sleeps on his right side. He checks his watch when he's uncomfortable, not because he cares about the time." Mr. Jang was looking at her strangely now. The details were invented, but somehow accurate. Uncle Sung-ho leaned back, studying them both. "And have you learned about his medical concerns?" The air seemed to vanish from the room. Mr. Jang went completely still. "I know everything I need to know," Alani said, her voice steady despite the rage blooming inside her at the casual cruelty of the question. "Everything?" Uncle Sung-ho pressed. "Everything that matters between a husband and wife," Alani replied, meeting his gaze without flinching. A heavy silence fell over the table. "Your loyalty is admirable," the uncle finally said. "Whether it's earned or purchased." Mr. Jang's hand found hers under the table, squeezing once in silent thanks. The rest of the visit passed in a blur. More questions. Veiled comments. Uncle Sung-ho studying every interaction between them like a scientist watching lab rats. When they finally returned to the hotel, the uncle prepared to leave for the airport. "I'll see you both in Seoul," he said, shaking Mr. Jang's hand firmly. "Family dinner. Next week." He turned to Alani, taking her hand in both of his again. "Welcome to our family, my dear." I hope you understand what you've married into. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Remember, in our world, appearances can be. He paused, deceiving. The threat was clear, I'm not convinced. After the uncle and his men departed, silence filled the suite. Mr. Jiang walked straight to the bar and poured himself a drink, something he'd said he rarely did. His hands shook visibly as he lifted the glass. Alani sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. That was intense. You did well, Mr. Jiang said without looking at her. Better than I expected. Thanks, I think. She kicked off her heels, wiggling her toes in relief. Is he always like that? My uncle? Mr. Jiang took a long swallow of his drink. Yes. He tests everyone. Always looking for weakness. Well, I think we passed. Mr. Jiang set his glass down with a sharp clink. No. He finally turned to face her, his expression grim. You did well, but it doesn't matter. He already knows. What do you mean, he already knows? Alani stood up, no longer tired. Knows what exactly? Mr. Jiang poured himself another drink, this one bigger than the first. That this marriage isn't real. How could he know? We were convincing. She thought they'd done well, especially with her improvised details about Mr. Jiang's habits. My uncle doesn't need proof. He works on instinct. Mr. Jiang drained half his glass in one swallow. And he's rarely wrong. Alani watched him, the careful businessman now showing cracks. His tie was loosened, hair slightly messed from running his hand through it, eyes darting to his phone every few seconds. So what does this mean for us? For the contract? It means things just got more complicated. He finished his drink, set the glass down with too much force. We need to leave. Now. Our flight's been moved up. Wait. Alani moved to block his path as he headed toward the bedroom. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what's really going on. All of it. He tried to step around her. We don't have time. Make time. She crossed her arms. Your uncle just threatened me, and you're saying he knows our secret. I deserve the truth before I get on a plane with you. They stared at each other, a silent battle of wills. Finally, Mr. Jiang's shoulders dropped slightly. Fine. He moved to the window, keeping his back to her. What do you want to know? Everything. Starting with what your business really is. He was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was flat. The Han Group began with my grandfather. After the Korean War, he started with protection fees from local merchants. Small at first. Then bigger. By the time my father took over, we had shipping routes throughout Asia. Shipping what? Initially? Whatever paid. Later, whatever was exclusive. Art. Technology. Sometimes people. Alani felt cold. Human trafficking? Not anymore, he said quickly. My father stopped that part 20 years ago. Too risky, too cruel. We shifted to real estate, nightclubs, lending. Loan sharks. High-interest private loans, he corrected. For people banks won't touch. And what happens when they can't pay? Mr. Jiang finally turned to face her. Sometimes we take property instead. Sometimes we find them employment to work off the debt. Forced labor? Paid work, he insisted. Hard, yes. Illegal, sometimes. But no one disappears anymore. That was my father's change. And your uncle doesn't like these changes? A humorless smile touched his lips. My uncle thinks mercy is weakness. When my father died, he expected to take control. But my father's will was clear, the business passed to me. So your uncle's been fighting you ever since. Not openly. That would create division, make us vulnerable to rivals. Instead, he undermines. questions my decisions. Looks for weakness. Like your. Alani hesitated. Your medical condition. Pain flickered across his face. Yes. After the kidnapping, when it became clear that I couldn't. He stopped, recalibrated. In our world, a man who cannot have children is considered incomplete. Temporary. That's archaic. It's reality, he said simply. My uncle has a son. If I show weakness, if I cannot secure the future of the family, control shifts to them. And people would die, Alani realized. During that shift. Yes. My loyal people. Anyone who supported me. He ran a hand through his hair again. And possibly you, now that you're connected to me. The reality of her situation suddenly felt very heavy. This wasn't just about pretending to be married. This was about survival in a world where appearances determined who lived and died. Check your phone, Mr. Zhang said suddenly. What? The payment. For your grandmother. It should have processed. Alani pulled out her phone. There was a notification from her bank app, a deposit alert. She opened it, eyes widening at the number. It was all there, exactly as promised. Enough to cover her grandmother's care for a year, with plenty left over. The money is real, he said, watching her reaction. Whatever happens, that's yours. I keep my promises. She looked up from the phone. Why me? Out of all the women you could have hired, why pick someone with no experience, no connections? He moved away from the window, stepping closer. Because I saw you before. 6 months ago. Where? On Beale Street. Not at the club. His voice softened slightly. It was raining. An elderly woman had fallen on the sidewalk. Everyone walked past, tourists, locals, everyone. But you stopped. Helped her up. Called a cab for her and paid for it yourself, even though your umbrella was broken and you got soaked. Alani remembered that day. The woman had reminded her of her grandmother. She'd been late for work because of stopping to help. You've been watching me since then? For 6 months? Not watching. Aware. Mr. Zhang looked almost embarrassed. I had business in Memphis several times. I made a point to visit the Blue Note when you were working. That's. Alani struggled to find the right word. Unsettling. I needed someone with compassion, he said, as if that explained everything. Someone who sees people others ignore. And someone with their own reasons to keep secrets. Before Alani could respond, Mr. Zhang's phone buzzed. He checked it, face tightening. What is it? She asked. My uncle. He's having you investigated. Investigated? How? Full background check. Your grandmother. Your financial records. Looking for anything suspicious. Anything that might expose why you really married me. Fear knotted in Alani's stomach. Will he find something? The timing of your grandmother's move to Sunrise Gardens. The sudden payment of your debts. It won't be proof, but it will feed his suspicions. Mr. Zhang pocketed his phone. We need to go. The plane is waiting. He moved toward the bedroom, but Alani caught his arm. Wait. What exactly does your uncle plan to do with this information? Use it. Against me, against you. He'll watch us in Seoul, test us constantly. If he finds enough evidence that our marriage is fake, he'll use it to challenge my leadership. And if he succeeds? Mr. Zhang's eyes met hers. Then I'm removed. Permanently. The implication hung in the air. Removed didn't mean fired. It meant eliminated. Pack quickly, he said. We leave in 20 minutes. Alani went to her room, mind racing as she gathered her things. She'd signed up for a fake marriage, not a life-or-death power struggle in a criminal organization. The money in her account was real, but so were the dangers. She could still walk away. Take the money already transferred and disappear. Her grandmother was safe at Sunrise Gardens now. Alani could find another job, maybe in another city. But something kept her from running. Maybe it was the contract she'd signed. Or the desperation she'd glimpsed behind Mr. Jang's careful mask. Or maybe it was the simple fact that he'd noticed her helping that old woman when no one else had bothered to look. She finished packing and rejoined him in the living room. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Korean, his free hand making sharp gestures. When he saw her, he ended the call abruptly. "Ready?" he asked. "As I'll ever be." The drive to the airport was tense. Mr. Jang kept checking his phone, texting people Alani couldn't see. His security team had doubled, 2 cars in front of them, 2 behind. "Is all this normal?" she asked, gesturing at their convoy. "When my uncle is involved, yes." At the airport, they bypassed the main terminal, driving directly onto the tarmac where a sleek private jet waited. Alani had never seen anything like it up close, gleaming white with the Han Group logo on the tail. "Your company has its own plane?" "Several," Mr. Jang replied absently, still scanning their surroundings. The pilot greeted them at the steps. Security checked the plane before letting them board. Inside was luxury beyond anything Alani had imagined: leather seats, wood paneling, a small bedroom area in the back. As the engine started, Alani buckled herself into a seat across from Mr. Jang. Takeoff was smoother than any commercial flight she'd experienced. Once they reached cruising altitude, Mr. Jang finally seemed to relax slightly. He loosened his tie completely, something she hadn't seen him do before. "It will be about 14 hours to Seoul," he said. "You should try to sleep." "Not sure I can sleep after everything that's happened." He nodded, understanding. "There's food in the galley if you're hungry. And the bedroom has a proper bed. I'm fine here for now." She studied his face, the tight lines around his eyes, the pallor beneath his tan. "You look exhausted." "I'm fine." The words were automatic. "When was the last time you actually slept?" "Before last night's nightmare, I mean." He seemed surprised by the question. "I don't remember." "That's not good." "It's normal. For me." They fell into silence. Alani watched out the window as America disappeared beneath clouds. She was leaving behind everything familiar, flying into a situation far more dangerous than she'd realized when she signed that contract. An hour into the flight, she noticed Mr. Jang's breathing changing. It was becoming shallow, too fast. His hand gripped the armrest, knuckles white. "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded jerkily, but his other hand moved to his chest. His face had gone ashen. Alani recognized the signs. She'd seen her cousin have panic attacks after returning from military service. She moved to the seat beside Mr. Jang, keeping her movements slow, deliberate. "You're having a panic attack," she said calmly. "It feels like you're dying, but you're not. It will pass." His eyes found hers, wide with a fear he'd never shown before. His breathing was coming in gasps now. "Focus on me," she continued. "Breathe with me. In through your nose, 4 counts." She demonstrated. "Hold for 7. Out through your mouth for 8. He tried to follow, his breath hitching. Again, she encouraged. "In for 4. Slowly, his breathing began to match hers. The death grip on the armrest eased slightly. "The plane," he managed between breaths. "Reminds me of when they took me." "We're safe here," she said. "Your people checked everything. Focus on now, not then." Without thinking, she placed her hand over his. His skin was cold, clammy. She could feel tremors running through him. They sat like that for several minutes, breathing together, her hands steady on his. Gradually, color returned to his face. The shaking subsided. "Better?" she asked. He nodded, but didn't pull his hand away. "Thank you." Does that happen often? Sometimes. When I'm... He hesitated. When control slips. You can't control everything, she said gently. I have to try. His voice was barely audible. Too many people depend on me. Looking at him now, vulnerable and human, it was hard to see the powerful criminal businessman. She just saw a man carrying too much weight, afraid to put it down. Why did you really bring me into all this? She asked. The truth. He was quiet for a long moment. Because I'm tired, he finally admitted. Of pretending to be unbreakable. With you, there's no history. No expectations. You already know my weakness, so I don't have to hide it. The honesty surprised her. But you've been watching me for months. Since that rainy day. Not continuously, he clarified. But yes, I noticed you. Kept track. That's a little creepy. A small, unexpected smile touched his lips. Perhaps. Why didn't you just ask me out like a normal person? Instead of this whole fake marriage scheme? Would you have said yes? He countered. A waitress with a Korean businessman who barely speaks. She had to admit he had a point. Probably not. And I needed more than dating, he added, serious again. I needed someone who would understand why this arrangement was necessary. Someone with their own reasons to agree. My grandmother's medical bills. Yes. Alani thought about the money now sitting in her account. The safety it provided. So you researched me. Found my weakness. I found our common ground, he corrected. You needed security for someone you love. So do I. Put that way, it seemed almost reasonable. Almost. Mr. Jang finally withdrew his hand from under hers, straightening in his seat. The moment of vulnerability was passing, the mask sliding back into place. You should rest, he said. Seoul will be challenging. My uncle works quickly. Alani stayed in her seat, processing everything she'd learned. The Han Group wasn't just shipping and nightclubs, it was an organized crime family fighting its own civil war. Mr. Jang wasn't just hiding his impotence, he was fighting for his life, and possibly the lives of others who had supported him. And she was now in the middle of it all, a fake wife with a very real target on her back. I need to know, she asked, heart pounding, am I a target now too? Seoul greeted them with rain. Heavy drops battered the windows of the car, taking them from the private airfield to Mr. Jang's home. Alani watched the unfamiliar city blur past, neon signs, towering buildings, streets crowded despite the weather. Is it always this busy? She asked, trying to shake off the exhaustion of their 14-hour flight. Usually, Mr. Jang replied. He hadn't fully relaxed since his panic attack on the plane, sitting rigidly in his seat, constantly checking his phone. The car turned into a gated community of sleek high-rises, stopping before the tallest building. Security guards approached, checked beneath the vehicle with mirrors, then waved them through. Home sweet home? Alani asked. For now. Mr. Jang didn't elaborate. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Seoul that would have been breathtaking if Alani weren't so tired. Modern furniture, minimalist art, and not a speck of dust anywhere. It looked like a magazine spread, not a home. Your room is through there, Mr. Jang said, gesturing to a hallway. There's a full wardrobe waiting. Bathroom attached. The staff will bring your bags up. Staff? Housekeeper. Cook. Security. He glanced at his watch. I have meetings this afternoon. Minho will help you with anything you need. Just like that, he was back to being the distant businessman. The vulnerable man from the plane had vanished. When will you be back? Alani asked. Late. Don't wait up. He was gone before she could say anything else, leaving Alani alone in the massive apartment. Her room was bigger than her entire Memphis apartment, with a king-sized bed and its own sitting area. The closet held dozens of new clothes, all in her size, dresses, casual wear, even workout clothes. The attached bathroom had a tub that could fit 3 people. Luxury as a cage, she thought. After showering away the travel grime, Alani explored the penthouse. The kitchen was state-of-the-art but looked unused. The living room had no personal touches, no photos, no books left open, no sign that anyone actually lived here. A middle-aged Korean woman appeared around noon, introducing herself as Mrs. Park, the housekeeper. She spoke limited English but managed to communicate that lunch was ready. Alani ate alone at the massive dining table, feeling small and out of place. Seoul spread out below her, vast and unknown. Her phone had no service, and she hadn't been given the Wi-Fi password yet. Complete isolation. By evening, she was climbing the walls with boredom and worry. Her grandmother would be expecting a call. Mr. Jang still hadn't returned. When he finally walked in after 10 p.m., he looked exhausted, with new tension lines around his mouth. "How was your day?" Alani asked, trying for normalcy. Instead of answering, he handed her his phone. On the screen was a photo of her grandmother sitting in the garden at Sunrise Gardens, reading a book. "What is this?" she asked, confusion turning to dread as she realized the implications. "Why do you have pictures of my grandmother?" "I don't." His voice was tight. "My uncle sent them to me an hour ago." The room seemed to tilt. "Your uncle is having my grandmother watched?" "Yes." "Why?" "To control you. To control me." Mr. Jang took the phone back, scrolling to show more photos, her grandmother being helped to the dining room, talking with a nurse. "It's a message." "A threat, you mean?" Anger sparked, hot and sudden. "You said she would be safe." "I thought she would be." For the first time, uncertainty crept into his voice. "I didn't think he would move this quickly." "Well, he did." Alani's voice rose. "And now my grandmother is being stalked by your uncle's thugs." "They won't hurt her," Mr. Jang said. "It's just surveillance." "Just surveillance?" Alani repeated incredulously. "You're taking pictures of an elderly woman who has nothing to do with any of this. How is that okay?" "It's not okay," he admitted. "But it's how my uncle operates." "And you knew this. You knew he would go after vulnerable people, and you still dragged me into this mess." Alani's fear was morphing into fury. What happens when surveillance isn't enough? What happens when he decides to send her a message directly? Mr. Jang's jaw tightened. "I won't let it get to that point." "How can you stop it? You're not even in the same country." "I have people in Memphis." "More of your criminals watching my grandmother? That's your solution?" "Their protection, not threats," he insisted. "And this arrangement was your choice too." "I chose a fake marriage, not putting my grandmother in danger." Alani's hands were shaking now. "You lied to me. You said this was just about appearances, just about business stability. You never said anything about your uncle threatening innocent people." "I told you what you needed to know at the time." His voice had gone cold. "And I'm handling it now. Like you handled our meeting with your uncle. That went really well." Sarcasm dripped from her words. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "Be careful, Alani." "Or what? You'll send people to watch me too?" The moment the words left her mouth, realization hit. "You already are, aren't you? That's why there's security everywhere. That's for your protection." "Is it? Or is it to make sure I don't run?" They stood facing each other, the air between them electric with anger and fear. Mr. Jang looked away first. "You should call your grandmother. Let her know you arrived safely." "With your uncle's men listening in?" "No thanks. Use this." He pulled a second phone from his pocket. "Secure line. Untraceable." Alani took it hesitantly. "And I'm just supposed to trust that?" "Yes." The word was simple, final. Because despite what you think, I am trying to protect you both. He walked away, disappearing into his room and closing the door firmly behind him. Alani stared at the phone in her hand. Tears of frustration burned behind her eyes. She'd known this arrangement was complicated, but she hadn't understood just how dangerous Mr. Jang's world really was. And now her grandmother was caught in it too. She used the secure phone to call Sunrise Gardens. Her grandmother sounded cheerful, talking about her new friends and the garden where she could sit without getting winded. Alani kept her voice steady, not letting on about the threat. Are there security guards there? She asked casually. At the front desk, yes, her grandmother replied. Very nice young man. Helps me with my packages. A guard Mr. Jang had placed, or one of his uncle's men. Impossible to know. That's good. Just, be careful, okay? Don't go anywhere with people you don't know, even if they say they know me. Alani, what's going on? Her grandmother's voice sharpened. Are you in trouble? No, everything's fine, she lied. Just being cautious. I love you, Nana. Love you more. After hanging up, Alani sat in the living room, watching Seoul's lights glimmer through the rain. She was trapped halfway around the world, with a man she barely knew, in a power struggle she didn't fully understand. She must have dozed off on the couch because she woke to urgent voices speaking Korean. Mr. Jang stood in the entryway with 3 security men, their faces grim. What's happening? She asked, sitting up. Mr. Jang glanced at her. Pack a small bag. We're leaving. Why? What's going on? One of the security men said something in Korean, holding up what looked like a small black disc. They found surveillance devices, Mr. Jang explained. 3 so far. The penthouse isn't secure. Alani's stomach dropped. Someone's been listening to us? Watching us? Listening, yes. No cameras found yet. He checked his watch. 5 minutes. Pack essentials only. She hurried to her room, grabbing the few things she'd unpacked and some of the new clothes. Her mind raced. If someone had been listening, they'd heard their argument about the fake marriage. They'd heard everything. When she returned to the living room, the security team had expanded to 6 men, all moving with controlled urgency. Where are we going? She asked Mr. Jang. Somewhere safer. They took the service elevator down to the garage, where 2 identical black SUVs waited. Mr. Jang guided Alani into the second one, sliding in beside her. The first car is a decoy, he explained as both vehicles pulled out. In case anyone is watching. Is this normal for you? Bug sweeps and decoy cars? Occasionally. His face was unreadable. More so since my uncle returned. They drove for nearly an hour, taking a circuitous route through Seoul's rain-slicked streets. Finally, they pulled into an underground garage beneath an older, less ostentatious building. What is this place? Alani asked as they rode a private elevator upward. A safe house. Off the books. Not connected to the Han Group officially. The apartment was smaller than the penthouse but still spacious by normal standards. 2 bedrooms instead of 4, a modest kitchen, comfortable but not extravagant furniture. Most importantly, it had no floor-to-ceiling windows, less exposed, more defensible. We'll stay here until the penthouse is cleared, Mr. Jang said, setting down his bag. Might be a few days. And then what? We find more bugs? Move again? How long does this go on? He had no answer for that. The security team did another sweep of the new place, checking for surveillance devices. When they finished, the lead guard, a serious-faced man named Ji-hoon, approached Alani. Mr. Jang says I teach you, he said in halting English, miming punches. Self-defense. Alani looked at Mr. Jang questioningly. You should know how to protect yourself, he said. Ji-hoon is the best. You think I'm going to need to fight someone? I think preparation prevents regret, Not exactly reassuring. For the next hour, Ji-hoon showed her basic moves: how to break a grip, where to strike to disable an attacker, how to create distance and run. Alani caught on quickly, her years of dance classes giving her good body awareness. Good, Ji-hoon said when they finished. Tomorrow more. After the security team left, two stationed outside the door, Mr. Jang and Alani were alone in the unfamiliar apartment. I'm sorry, he said abruptly. About your grandmother. I should have anticipated my uncle would move against her. The apology surprised her. Yes, you should have. I've doubled her security. Discreetly. And I've arranged for Sunrise Gardens to install new alarm systems, citing a recent break-in nearby. That helps, but it doesn't solve the real problem. Alani sank onto the couch. Your uncle isn't going to stop, is he? No. Mr. Jang joined her, keeping a careful distance. But neither am I. What's your plan? For now? Survival. He looked genuinely tired. I'm meeting with allied family heads tomorrow. Securing support. If enough stand with me, my uncle will be forced to back down. And if they don't? His silence was answer enough. Later that night, Alani discovered another challenge of their new safe house. The bedrooms shared a wall, and the apartment was much smaller than the penthouse. Every movement seemed amplified. She could hear Mr. Jang moving around his room, the soft sound of drawers opening and closing. Then water running. Then nothing. Sleep refused to come. Her mind kept replaying the photos of her grandmother, imagining strangers watching the old woman's every move. A sharp sound from the next room caught her attention. Glass breaking? Alani sat up, listening. Then a thud, like something heavy falling. She got up and knocked softly on Mr. Jang's door. Hello? Are you okay? No answer. She tried the handle. Unlocked. Pushing the door open slightly, she called again. Mr. Jang? The lamp was on, casting soft light across the room. Mr. Jang stood with his back to her, shirtless, bent slightly over the dresser. A broken water glass lay at his feet, water spreading across the hardwood. Sorry, he said without turning. Dropped a glass. Go back to sleep. But Alani wasn't looking at the glass. She was looking at his back, a map of scars crossing pale skin. Some looked surgical, precise lines. Others were jagged, angry. Burn marks dotted his left shoulder. 3 days, he'd said. They'd held him for 3 days. She must have made some sound because he turned, reaching quickly for his robe. But not before she saw more scars across his chest and abdomen. I'm sorry, she said, stepping back. I heard the glass break. I thought. It's fine. His voice was tight as he pulled the robe on, covering the evidence of his torture. I'll clean it up. I can help. No. The word was sharper than he probably intended. Softer, he added, please. Just go. Alani retreated, closing his door behind her. Back in her own bed, she couldn't erase the image of those scars from her mind. Whatever they'd done to him during those 3 days went far beyond a simple beating. No wonder he had nightmares. No wonder he kept his control wrapped so tightly around himself. Hours later, Alani was still awake when a sound came from beyond her door, the quiet shuffle of feet, then silence. A minute passed. Then her door opened just a crack. Alani, Mr. Jang's voice was barely audible. Are you awake? Yes, she answered, sitting up. He stood in the doorway, a shadow in the darkness. I can't sleep. The admission cost him something, she could tell. This proud, careful man, admitting weakness. The nightmares? She asked. Yes. She moved over, making space on the bed. After a moment's hesitation, he crossed the room and sat on the edge, keeping a careful distance. Does it happen every night? She asked. Most nights. He stared at his hands. Worse in unfamiliar places. Is it always about those 3 days? His shoulders tensed. You saw. Yes. What they did. He stopped, swallowed. It wasn't just physical. You don't have to talk about it. I know. He was silent for a long time. I've never talked about it. Not to anyone. Sometimes it helps, Alani offered. Bringing the monsters into the light makes them smaller. A humorless laugh escaped him. These monsters don't shrink so easily. They sat in silence, the unfamiliar city humming beyond the walls. Rain still pattered against the windows, softer now. You should sleep, she said finally. He nodded but didn't move. In a minute. When he finally lay down on top of the covers, Alani gave him space, staying firmly on her side of the bed. This wasn't romantic or even particularly friendly. It was two people finding brief shelter in a storm. Just as she was drifting off, she felt movement beside her. That night, for the first time, he reached for her hand in the darkness, not out of desire, but because he needed someone to anchor him to the world. Morning brought a different soul. Sunlight replaced rain, highlighting the city's blend of ancient and modern. From the safe house window, Alani watched people hurrying along the street below, normal lives untouched by criminal family drama. She'd woken alone. At some point in the night, Mr. Jiang had returned to his own room, leaving only the faint impression on the covers where he'd lain. They hadn't spoken about it at breakfast, both pretending the moment of vulnerability hadn't happened. I have meetings today, he'd said, straightening his already perfect tie. Ji-hoon will continue your lessons. Don't leave the building. Now he was gone, and Alani was once again left to fill empty hours in an unfamiliar place. Ji-hoon arrived mid-morning, serious-faced as always. Today we practice escapes, he announced, moving furniture to create space in the living room. For the next hour, he taught her how to break different holds, wrist grabs, choke holds, even what to do if someone grabbed her from behind. It was exhausting but empowering. By the end, Alani could flip Ji-hoon's grip with a quick twist and step back into a defensive stance. Good, he said, nodding approvingly. You learn fast. Let's hope I never need to use any of this, she replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. Ji-hoon's expression darkened slightly. Better to know and not need. After he left, Alani showered and changed into some of the new clothes that had been delivered to the safe house. Everything fit perfectly, which was still unsettling, a reminder that Mr. Jiang had been planning this arrangement long before she knew he existed. She was flipping through Korean TV channels, understanding nothing, when her secure phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Jiang. Meeting finished early. Coming back now. We need to talk. Those 4 words, we need to talk, had never preceded good news in the history of conversations. 20 minutes later, the front door opened. Mr. Jiang entered, his usual composed demeanor fractured around the edges. His tie was loosened, a few strands of hair fell across his forehead, and the lines around his mouth were deeper than usual. What happened? Alani asked, muting the TV. He set his briefcase down carefully, a man trying to control every movement. My uncle has made his move. What kind of move? An ultimatum. Mr. Jiang slipped off his suit jacket, hanging it with mechanical precision. Delivered to all the family heads and key business partners this morning. What does he want? Proof. His voice had that hollow quality she'd come to recognize as suppressed anger. Proof our marriage is real. Proof I'm capable of continuing the family line. Alani stood, stomach tightening. How exactly does he expect you to prove either of those things? He's hosting a family gathering next week. All allies, all rivals, everyone who matters in our world. Mr. Jiang moved to the window, keeping to the side as he'd taught her, never standing directly in front of glass. We're expected to attend as husband and wife. To be convincing. And to announce that you're pregnant. What? The word came out sharper than she intended. That's insane. We can't fake a pregnancy. No. We can't. His knuckles whitened against the window frame. That's the point. He's set up a test he knows will fail. And if we don't go? Then it confirms his accusations. That our marriage is fake. That I'm... He paused, the words still difficult, impotent. Unfit to lead. Alani sank back onto the couch. So either way, he wins. Yes. What are the actual consequences? She asked. Beyond embarrassment, I mean. Mr. Jiang turned from the window, his expression grim. It's already starting. 3 shipping contracts cancelled this morning. A loan called in ahead of schedule. My uncle has been whispering to our partners that I'm compromised. And after the family gathering? If he succeeds in convincing enough people? Mr. Jiang's voice went flat. The business splits. Those loyal to me will resist. Those loyal to him will move against us. People will die. Including you? The question came out barely above a whisper. His silence was answer enough. Alani stood again, unable to stay still with the weight of what he was saying. There has to be another way. I'm open to suggestions. A rare hint of bitterness colored his tone. She paced the small living room, mind racing. What if we turn this around? What if, instead of hiding and waiting for his next move, we go public? Really public? Mr. Jiang frowned. What do you mean? Right now, your uncle controls the narrative. He's whispering to everyone that our marriage is fake, that you're not capable. She pushed through the awkwardness of the topic. So let's show everyone how real we are. Appear in public, do interviews, be seen everywhere as the perfect couple. That doesn't solve the pregnancy demand. No, but it buys us time. Forces him to move more carefully. Alani warmed to her idea. Make him look like the bad guy for doubting this wonderful marriage. Get the public on our side. Mr. Jiang considered this, his tactical mind working through the angles. It could work. Public opinion matters, even in our world. Is there an event we could attend? Something high profile? There's a charity gala tomorrow night. For children's hospitals. A slight frown. My uncle will be there. Perfect, Alani said. We'll show up looking amazing, act completely in love, and make him look paranoid for questioning us. For the first time that day, something like hope flickered in Mr. Jiang's eyes. It's risky. So is doing nothing. She met his gaze. I didn't sign up for this level of danger, but we're here now. Might as well fight back. A hint of admiration crossed his face. You continue to surprise me, Alani. Good. Let's keep everyone surprised. The next evening found them preparing for battle, not with weapons, but with formal wear and practiced smiles. Alani stood before the mirror, hardly recognizing herself in the midnight blue gown that had been delivered that afternoon. It hugged her curves perfectly before flowing to the floor, modest yet striking. Her hair was pulled into an elegant updo by a stylist Mr. Jiang had brought in. Diamonds, real ones, glittered at her ears and throat. You look. Mr. Jiang paused in the doorway, struggling for words. He himself was immaculate in a black tuxedo that made him look like he'd stepped from a film. Beautiful. Thanks. Alani smoothed the dress nervously. Will I pass as your wife? You'll outshine everyone there. The compliments sounded sincere, not part of their act. Ji-hoon drove them to the gala, held in a historic hotel in central Seoul. The building's facade was lit with golden lights, red carpet stretching from curb to door. Photographers lined the entrance. Ready? Mr. Jiang asked as the car stopped. Alani nodded, heart racing. Remember, we're madly in love. Newlyweds who can't keep our eyes off each other. I'll try to look besotted. Maybe don't use that word, she suggested with a small smile. Doesn't exactly scream passion. The door opened, and they stepped into a flash of cameras. Mr. Jiang's hand rested at the small of her back, warm and steady. They'd practiced this, intimate touches that looked natural. His hand at her back. Her fingers adjusting his tie. The casual brush of shoulders as they walked. Inside, the ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and flower arrangements taller than Alani. Seoul's elite mingled in designer clothes, sipping champagne and pretending their conversations weren't about business deals. "My uncle is at 3 o'clock, Mr. Jiang murmured, guiding her toward the bar. "Don't look directly." Alani resisted the urge to turn her head, instead using the mirror behind the bar to glimpse Uncle Sung-ho holding court among a group of older men. His expression darkened when he spotted them. "He doesn't look happy to see us," she observed. "Good." Mr. Jiang ordered champagne for her, water for himself. "Let's make him even unhappier." They moved through the crowd with practiced ease. Mr. Jiang introduced her to business associates, ally family members, politicians, a dizzying array of names and faces. Alani smiled and laughed at the right moments, leaned into Mr. Jiang's space, placed her hand on his arm when he spoke. To anyone watching, they were a couple deeply in tune with each other. "You're very good at this," Mr. Jiang whispered as they walked toward their table. "So are you," she replied. "Almost like you enjoy having me on your arm." It's not difficult to pretend. The comment hung between them, neither fully acknowledging its implications. Dinner was served, multiple courses of French-Korean fusion that Alani barely tasted, too focused on maintaining their performance. Across the room, Uncle Sung-ho watched them with narrowed eyes. After the meal came speeches, boring in any language, followed by dancing. Mr. Jiang led Alani to the floor with surprising grace. "You never mentioned you could dance," she said as he guided her through a simple waltz. "There are many things you don't know about me." His hand was warm against her back, keeping a proper distance while still appearing intimate. "Like what?" A small smile touched his lips. "I make decent pancakes." The unexpected revelation made her laugh. "Seriously? The big, bad businessman cooks breakfast?" "Occasionally. When I have time." His eyes crinkled slightly at the corners. "My mother taught me." Alani stored this new information away, another piece of the puzzle that was Mr. Jiang. "You'll have to prove it someday." "Perhaps I will." The song ended, and Mr. Jiang excused himself to speak with a business associate. Alani made her way to a quiet corner, needing a moment away from the performance. Her feet already hurt in the elegant heels, and maintaining their charade required constant focus. A waiter approached with a tray of champagne flutes. "Drink, miss?" "No, thank you. I'm good." Alani started to turn away, then froze. The waiter wasn't looking at her face or waiting for her response. His eyes were scanning the room, hand dipping into his jacket pocket. Every instinct screamed danger. The man's eyes locked on Mr. Jiang across the room, his expression hardening. His hand emerged from the pocket, something metallic glinting. Alani moved without thinking, Ji-hoon's training kicking in. She knocked the tray from the man's hands, sending glass shattering across the floor. The noise drew attention, heads turning their way. "He has a weapon," she shouted, backing away. The fake waiter lunged forward, but not at her, at Mr. Jiang, who was now hurrying across the room toward them. Security converged from all directions. Everything happened in seconds. The attacker pulled something from his jacket, a syringe, not a gun. Mr. Jiang reached Alani, physically putting himself between her and the threat. The attacker changed course, heading straight for Mr. Jiang. Security tackled the man, but not before he made contact. The syringe jabbed into Mr. Jiang's shoulder, plunger depressing halfway before it was knocked away. Chaos erupted. Women screamed. Men shouted. Security guards pinned the attacker to the floor while others created a protective circle around Mr. Jiang and Alani. "Are you hurt?" Mr. Jiang asked her, gripping her arms, checking for injuries. "I'm fine," she insisted. "But you?" He shook his head. "It's nothing." But his face had already gone pale, perspiration beading on his forehead. Whatever had been in that syringe was working fast. Ji-hoon appeared, taking control. Hospital. Now. The next hour passed in a blur. The rush to the car. Mr. Jang's condition deteriorating, his breathing becoming labored. The private hospital where doctors were already waiting. Being separated from him as medical personnel whisked him away. Alani paced the private waiting room, still in her evening gown, now wrinkled and stained with champagne from the shattered glasses. Ji-hoon stood guard at the door, his usual stoic expression replaced by grim concern. Was it poison? She asked. Not deadly one, Ji-hoon replied. Meant to embarrass, not kill. Embarrass how? Ji-hoon looked uncomfortable. Make him look weak. In public. Understanding dawned. Some kind of drug to cause a physical reaction, perhaps related to Mr. Jang's existing condition. A cruel, public humiliation orchestrated by someone who knew exactly where to hurt him. Uncle Sung-ho. A doctor finally emerged after what felt like hours. Mrs. Jang? The title still felt foreign, but Alani stepped forward. Yes. How is he? Stable. The substance was a powerful muscle relaxant combined with a sedative. We've counteracted most effects, but he'll need to rest. Can I see him? The doctor nodded. Briefly. He's asking for you. Mr. Jang lay in a private room, looking smaller somehow against the white sheets. And 4 dripped medication into his arm. His complexion was still too pale, but his eyes were clear when they found her. You're safe, he said, voice slightly hoarse. I'm fine, she assured him, moving to the bedside. How are you feeling? Like I've been hit by a truck. He tried to sit up, winced. But it could have been worse. Your uncle? A shadow crossed his face. Almost certainly. The attacker won't talk, but the timing is too convenient. Everyone saw what happened, Alani said. They saw him attack you. They saw me collapse. Weak. Unable to protect myself. Bitterness laced his words. Exactly what he wanted. You stepped in front of me, she reminded him. Everyone saw that too. You were protecting me. Mr. Jang didn't look convinced. The damage is done. By morning, rumors will spread that I couldn't even defend myself at a public event. More contracts will be cancelled. More allies will question my strength. Alani sat carefully on the edge of the bed. So we fight back harder. At what cost? His eyes met hers, exhaustion evident. You were nearly hurt tonight. Because of me. Because of this situation I've put you in. I signed the contract, she reminded him. I knew there were risks. Not like this. His hand moved toward hers, then stopped, uncertain. You didn't sign up to be a target for assassins. Neither did you, she pointed out. A small, tired smile touched his lips. It came with the family business. They sat in silence for a moment, the hospital machines beeping softly in the background. Outside the door, Alani knew Ji-hoon and other security personnel stood guard. The safety bubble was an illusion, temporary at best. The attack changes things, Mr. Jang said finally. My uncle has escalated beyond business tactics. Beyond threats. He won't stop now. So what do we do? His eyes closed briefly, a man making a difficult decision. You go home. What? Back to Memphis. To your grandmother. His voice was gentle but firm. This isn't your fight, Alani. It never should have been. You can't just send me away. I can ensure your safety. I can fulfill my financial obligations. He opened his eyes, meeting her gaze. The contract is void. You'll still receive everything I promised, but you don't have to stay. And what happens to you? She asked. I handle my uncle. My way. Alone? He nodded once. As I should have from the beginning. Alani stood, anger flaring suddenly. So that's it? You're just giving up on our plan? Letting him win? I'm being realistic. A hint of his usual authority returned to his voice. Tonight proved how dangerous this situation has become. I won't risk your life to save my position. That's not your decision to make, she insisted. I'm already involved. And I'm uninvolving you. His tone softened. Please understand. This is for your protection. I don't need protection. I need, Alani stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. What did she need? Safety, yes. But also, something else. Something she wasn't ready to name. Mr. Jiang reached for her hand, finally bridging the distance between them. His fingers were cool against hers. I'll understand if you want out, he whispers from his hospital bed. The contract is void. You can go home to Memphis tomorrow. Alani stared at the ceiling of the safe house, sleep nowhere in sight. Mr. Jiang's words from the hospital kept repeating in her head, you can go home to Memphis tomorrow. Freedom. That's what he was offering. A chance to walk away from this mess with the money still in her account and her grandmother taken care of. No more threats, no more pretending, no more danger. So why didn't it feel like freedom? Her phone lit up beside her. Nana calling. At this hour? Nana? Is everything okay? Alani sat up quickly. I should be asking you that. Her grandmother's voice sounded stronger than Alani remembered. It's nearly midnight there, isn't it? Yeah, I just... Alani sighed. Can't sleep. Something on your mind? Everything was on her mind. The attack at the gala. Mr. Jiang in that hospital bed, looking smaller somehow. The way he'd stepped in front of her without hesitation. Mr. Jiang wants me to go home, Alani finally said. Back to Memphis. Because of what happened at that fancy party. The nurse mentioned something about it on the news. Of course it had made the news. Yeah. Things have gotten dangerous. So he's sending you away. For your safety. Her grandmother didn't phrase it as a question. The contract is void. I still get the money, but I don't have to stay. Her grandmother was quiet for a moment. You know what's funny? Since I've been at Sunrise Gardens taking these new medications, I can walk all the way around the pond without stopping to catch my breath. First time in years. Alani smiled despite everything. That's wonderful, Nana. My point is, I'm doing better than I have in a long time. So whatever you decide, don't use me as your excuse. This is about what you want. What did she want? The answer scared her more than Uncle Sung-ho's threats. I don't know what to do, Alani admitted. Yes you do, her grandmother said gently. You just don't want to admit it yet. After they hung up, Alani paced the small apartment. The lights of Seoul blinked through the window like stars that had fallen to earth. This strange city that had become her temporary home. This strange arrangement that had become something else. Morning arrived with a sharp knock at the door. Not Ji-hoon's usual pattern. Alani pulled on a robe and cautiously approached. Mrs. Jiang, came a smooth voice through the door. A moment of your time. Uncle Sung-ho. Here. Alone. She cracked the door, keeping the chain on. How did you find this place? Please, he smiled thinly. There are few secrets in Seoul I don't eventually discover. Ji-hoon appeared from nowhere, positioning himself behind Alani. She nodded to him and removed the chain. Whatever the uncle wanted, she wasn't facing him alone. Uncle Sung-ho entered like he owned the place, immaculate despite the early hour. He carried a thin leather portfolio. Tea? He asked, as if this were his home and she the visitor. It's 6 a.m, Alani said flatly. What do you want? Direct. I appreciate that. He sat uninvited on the couch and opened the portfolio. I have a business proposition for you. I'm not interested in your business. You haven't heard the terms. He slid a document across the coffee table. $5 million. Immediately transferred to any account you choose. Alani didn't touch it. And what exactly would I have to do for that money? Simply tell the truth. His smile reminded her of a shark. Sign a statement confirming your marriage to my nephew is a business arrangement. That he hired you because of his inability to maintain a real relationship. The insult was thinly veiled, aimed at Mr. Jiang's impotence. You want me to betray him, Alani said. I want to offer you freedom. Uncle Sung-ho leaned forward. My nephew's position is already crumbling. The attack at the gala was merely the beginning. When he falls, anyone close to him falls too. Is that a threat? A reality. He stood smoothly. The offer expires at noon. Choose wisely, Mrs. Jiang, if that is even your real name. After he left, Alani picked up the document, $5 million in exchange for destroying Mr. Jiang. The uncle could have threatened her. Could have sent more men with syringes. Instead, he'd tried to buy her. He was afraid of her. The realization hit like lightning. Not afraid physically, but afraid of what she represented, someone loyal to Mr. Jiang who couldn't be intimidated. Someone who had seen the man behind the mask and stayed anyway. For the first time, Alani understood her real power in this relationship. At the hospital, she found Mr. Jiang sitting up, looking better than the night before. Surprise flickered across his face when she entered. You're still here, he said quietly. Looks like it. She sat in the chair beside his bed. Your uncle came to see me this morning. Mr. Jiang's face hardened. What did he want? To buy me off. She explained the offer, watching his reaction carefully. $5 million, he repeated. He must be genuinely worried about you. About us, Alani corrected. That's what I realized. He can't control whatever this is between us, so he's trying to break it. And what is your answer? Mr. Jiang asked, his voice carefully neutral. I haven't decided yet. She met his eyes directly. That depends on what happens when our year is up. Understanding dawned on his face. The end of our contract. You said before it ends with divorce or an accident. The last word hung heavy between them. Is that still the plan? Mr. Jiang looked out the window at the city sprawled below. I don't know anymore. It wasn't the answer she expected, but it was honest. When I created this arrangement, he continued slowly, it was just business. A transaction. I would buy time with a fake wife, then end it when it served its purpose. And now? His eyes returned to hers. Now I find myself reluctant to think about the ending. The admission clearly cost him something. This proud, controlled man acknowledging even the possibility of attachment. I can't promise what happens in a year, he said. My world is too unstable. But I can promise that whatever decision is made, it will be ours. Together. Partners, Alani said. Not just employer and employee. Yes. He reached for her hand, deliberate this time. If you stay. If I stay, she repeated, we face your uncle together. As equals. Equals, he agreed. Though he'll never see it that way. Then let's show him. That afternoon, against medical advice, Mr. Jiang checked out of the hospital. By evening, they were ready to make their move. They arrived unannounced at Uncle Sung-ho's office, a united front. Mr. Jiang in a perfect suit despite his still healing body, Alani beside him in a cream dress that made her look both elegant and formidable. The uncle's surprise when they entered together was almost worth the risk. Nephew, he recovered quickly. You should be resting. I've rested enough, Mr. Jiang replied. We need to talk. Family matters are best discussed privately. The uncle's eyes flickered to Alani. My wife stays, Mr. Jiang said firmly. What concerns me concerns her. They sat across from the uncle's massive desk. The older man studied them with calculating eyes. So, he finally said. You've declined my generous offer, Mrs. Jiang. I have. May I ask why? Alani smiled without warmth. Because I value loyalty over money. Something you wouldn't understand. Loyalty, the uncle scoffed. Such a convenient word for a woman who appeared from nowhere, with nothing but the ability to cash large checks. You know nothing about me, Alani kept her voice steady. Except what your investigators told you. And clearly, they missed something important. Which is? That I can't be bought. She leaned forward slightly. And neither can your nephew. Uncle Sung-ho laughed dismissively. Everyone has a price. Then you've miscalculated ours, Mr. Jiang said. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to end your campaign against me. Or what? Challenge gleamed in the uncle's eyes. Mr. Jiang placed a flash drive on the desk between them. Or this goes to every family head and business partner. Including your son. The uncle stared at the small device. What is this? Financial records, Mr. Jiang explained calmly. The accounts you've been skimming from for 15 years. The properties in your mistress's name. The payments to officials who would be very embarrassed if their connection to you became public. The uncle's face remained composed, but Alani caught the slight tension around his mouth. You're bluffing. I'm not. Mr. Jiang's voice was soft but firm. I've been collecting this information since my father died. Insurance, I called it. I never wanted to use it against family, but you've left me no choice. You would destroy your own blood? The uncle's voice lowered dangerously. You tried to poison me in public, Mr. Jiang reminded him. You threatened my wife's grandmother. You crossed every line first. The uncle looked between them, calculating. And what exactly do you want? Peace, Mr. Jiang said simply. You stop undermining me. Stop spreading rumors. Stop threatening those I care about. In return, this information stays private. And the family business? Continues as my father intended. You keep your position and privileges. Nothing changes, except your campaign against me. The uncle leaned back, fingers steepled. And if I refuse? Then we see which of us the family values more, the loyal son, or the brother who's been stealing from them for years. Mr. Jiang stood, indicating the meeting was over. You have until tomorrow to decide. In the car, Alani finally breathed normally again. Will he agree? He has no choice, Mr. Jiang said. His reputation means everything to him. What if he calls your bluff? Is there actually anything on that drive? A small smile touched Mr. Jiang's lips. Everything I said, and more. My father taught me to always have leverage, especially with family. Remind me never to get on your bad side, Alani said, half joking. I don't think that's possible, he replied softly. The next day, confirmation came. Uncle Sung-ho had backed down. The cancelled contracts were suddenly renewed. The whispers stopped. The surveillance on Alani's grandmother disappeared. It wasn't a permanent victory, they both knew that. But it bought them time to strengthen their position and their partnership. A month later, Mr. Jiang surprised Alani with a suggestion. I need to return to Memphis briefly, he explained over breakfast. Business matters. I thought perhaps you might want to come. Visit your grandmother. The trip back to America felt different, not as strangers bound by a contract, but as partners who had faced danger together. They talked more easily now, shared small jokes, even laughed sometimes. After visiting her grandmother, who looked better than Alani had seen in years, they found themselves driving past a familiar building. The hotel, Alani recognized where it all began. Where we spent our wedding night. Mr. Jiang glanced at her. Would you like to stop? She nodded, curious what had brought them here. The suite was similar to before, luxurious, with windows overlooking the Mississippi. Mr. Jang stood in the center of the room, looking unusually uncertain. I wanted to come back here, he said. To give you something. What? Alani asked. A choice. He met her gaze. A real one this time. From his pocket, he pulled their original contract. This arrangement began with you having few options. Stay in Memphis with mounting debts, or marry a stranger for money. I chose to sign, she reminded him. You did. But now. He held the contract out to her. If you want to end this, you can. Your grandmother is cared for. Your debts are paid. You could walk away, start fresh. Alani stared at the contract, understanding what he was offering. Freedom. A clean break. No obligation. And if I stay, she asked quietly. Then we continue as partners. Facing whatever comes together. His voice softened. But this time, it would be your choice. Not your necessity. Alani took the contract, feeling the weight of the paper in her hands. This document had changed her life, thrown her into danger, and somehow given her a strength she hadn't known she possessed. Slowly, deliberately, she tore it down the middle. Mr. Jang's eyes widened. Does that mean you're leaving? No, Alani smiled. It means I'm staying. But not because of this. She let the torn pieces fall to the floor. Because of what we've built since. Relief and something warmer crossed his face. Thank you. For what? For seeing me, he said simply. Not just the businessman. Not just the criminal. Me. As evening fell over Memphis, they prepared to leave the hotel. Mr. Jang opened the door for her, his hand light against the small of her back, a gesture that had started as performance but had become habit. This time, when Mr. Jang closed the door behind them, he didn't lock it. He didn't need to. Alani wasn't going anywhere. And that's how Alani and Mr. Jang's story begins to transform from a business arrangement into something neither of them expected. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button right now and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Also, what story would you like to hear next? See you in the next story.